Part 18. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich John Word. Chapter 171. Chapter 171, One day is like 3 autumns apart. You asked before, who is my biological child between you and Nian? As you are, I would rather Nian be my biological daughter. And if Nian is really my daughter, then you are so right Nian, then I will definitely break your legs. Su Nian was particularly happy when she saw Li Jianhong scolding Li Baikan bloody. Can't help but move forward slowly. She thought about finding a chance to record this precious scene with her mobile phone. If Li Baikan is angry with her in the future, then she can announce it. The president of the Li Group, the king of the business empire, and a powerful figure worth hundreds of billions. If he is scolded like this, he will definitely become popular. But the next moment, when she was squatting and moving forward, she failed to step firmly and fell directly to the ground. Such a big movement immediately attracted the attention of the 2 men. Li Baikan's brows couldn't help but frown. Because he heard. Ouch, my feet hurt me so much. Unlucky, you can fall even if you watch the excitement. I just want to record a video of Li Baikan being scolded and watch it over and over again when I'm unhappy. What's wrong? This really made Li Baikan not sure what to say, but listening to this, he felt that Su Nian must have fallen hard. But before Li Baikan did anything, Li Jianhong directly issued an eviction order. Okay, hurry up and go away, don't stay here anymore. If you stay here and make me angry, then I don't know how long I will have to live. Su misses her. Su Nian, what are you talking about? Let me tell you, if you want to hurt Nian, it's definitely impossible. Li Jianhong immediately called the security guard over. Li Baikan could only stand up and leave when he saw this posture. However, before he left, he couldn't help but take a look in the direction of Su Nian. After Li Baikan left, Li Jianhong hurriedly went to check on Su Nian. When he saw the pain on Su Nian's expression, he immediately lost his composure. Nian, what's wrong with you? Did you knock something? Or did you hit something? Immediately, he hurriedly called 2 servants to help Su Nian up. The family doctor also came as soon as possible. When he saw Su Nian's red and swollen ankles, Li Jianhong couldn't help but said, I told you, girls should be more reserved. Hey, Nian, you are so kind. I just scolded Baikan casually. That guy, you are so unbearable, how can you not be eaten up by him like this? Su Nian, who wanted to record Li Baikan's embarrassment, really felt a little guilty. But it doesn't matter, Su Nian has lived for so long and has no abilities except being thick-skinned. So the guilty feeling only appeared in Su Nian's heart for a while and then disappeared, and he immediately put on a sad look. I don't know why, I can't help but get closer when I look at Baikan. Maybe it's because I haven't seen him for so long. It's only been a few days, Nian. The ancients said that one day without seeing him is like 3 autumns. Dad, I haven't seen Baikan for several days. Then you can calculate how many autumns I haven't seen him. When Li Jianhong saw Su Nian like this, he couldn't help but persuade her, then you have to endure it. Nian, you are a smart girl, you should know which one is better now or in the future. With the old man showing such concern, Su Nian really couldn't continue acting. And don't you know that you can't eat hot tofu in a hurry? Look at your feet. They are better now. You have to have a good rest. So, you just stay in the room obediently for the past few days and take good care of yourself, otherwise I might really get angry. Su Nian obediently agreed. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich John Word. Chapter 172. Chapter 172. Don't scream, it's me. Night. Su Nian was sleeping soundly when she suddenly felt something touching her leg. I woke up immediately. The moment she opened her eyes, a dark thing came into her sight. This made Sunian want to scream subconsciously. But before she could say anything, someone covered her mouth. "Don't scream, it's me." The familiar voice brought Sunian back to his senses. When Sunian's eyes gradually became familiar with the darkness, Lee Baiken's figure gradually became clearer. This made Sunian feel very unhappy. Why does this licking dog show up in the middle of the night? It's really scary. Nearly scared the soul out of me. But at this moment, Sunian suddenly had an idea. This licking dog doesn't want to scare me to death, or directly kill me without anyone noticing. After all, if I die, then wouldn't he be able to use my heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys as he pleases? I am still in the old house now, under the protection of the old man. Even if I die, the old man will not be able to cause trouble for Lee Baiken. Hey, this licking dog is really vicious, even more vicious than my vicious female partner. Sunian couldn't help but shrink back. Lee Baiken, this woman has a little too much imagination. Lee Baiken really feels a little regretful now. He shouldn't have come. She shouldn't worry about how her feet are hurt. As for this woman, no matter how injured she is, she deserves it. Baiken, what are you doing here? Sunian couldn't help but hide his body under the quilt as much as possible. Although according to the plot, nothing will happen to her, she still can't help but feel a little scared. Guess, what's the reason why I'm here? Sunian shrank back. Lee Baiken then sat on her bed. At this moment, Sunian didn't show off as usual, and just looked at Lee Baiken so quietly. The moonlight shone through the glass, making Sunian's eyes brighter. At this moment, she really looked like an injured deer in the forest. Lee Baiken withdrew his gaze, then lifted the quilt with his hand to look at her feet. When he saw the tightly hugged feet, he frowned. Are you hurt so badly? Sunian looked at Lee Baiken at this moment, his mind filled with doubts. Why does he look like he cares about her feet? Could it be that if my foot is injured, it will affect kidney donation? Is there such a saying? Why have I never heard of it? What did the author of this Mary Sue novel think? What is the structure of her brain? Especially when she saw Lee Baiken taking off her gauze, she became even more confused. But at this time, Sunian still said very professionally, Baiken, do you know? In ancient times, only the husband could see a girl's feet. If he saw a girl's feet, he had to marry her. Really? What do you mean, you want to remarry a family doctor? Lee Baiken said without raising his head. If you really have such an idea, then I respect your blessing. Sunian. I knew that my vicious female partner would be ridiculed for saying this, but I didn't expect that I would be ridiculed like this. Lee Baiken lowered his head and raised the corners of his mouth in a small arc. When I took off the gauze and saw Sunian's red and swollen feet, I really didn't know what to say. This woman is really stupid, she can hurt herself like this just by watching the excitement. She also said that Mo Bao inherited her IQ, haha, she obviously inherited it from him. That's what I was thinking in my heart, but the strength on my hand was much lighter. Please vote for recommendations, gentlemen, please. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich John Word. Chapter 173. Chapter 173. Didn't this guy sneak in through the window? When he saw Lee Baiken taking out a bottle of medicine, Sunian couldn't help but widen his eyes. What is Lee Baiken trying to do? Do you want to poison me to death? If you really poison me to death for that woman Lan Min, what should I do? Should I scream? If I have to scream, then when should I scream? If I break up with Li Baikan now, how can I get the seeds from Li Baikan to make a calligraphy treasure? Li Baikan couldn't help but lift his eyelids and glance at Sunian. Then, under Sunian's disbelieving eyes, he applied medicine to her feet. Sunian, after you apply this medicine, your feet will be fine in 2 days. These words made Sunian completely understand why Li Baikan came here. But this made Sunian confused. What does he want to do here? Even if you want to coax me to donate to Lan Min, you don't have to go to such an extent. Li Baikan's body stiffened slightly. Because he didn't know why he came here. In order to determine how injured Sunian was. But it has nothing to do with him if Sunian is hurt. Baikan, sometimes, I really envy Lan Min. I can make you love me so much. Even if you hate me so much, you will come here in the middle of the night and do such things for me for Lan Min. No matter what, just follow my personality and you'll be fine. Hey, but think about it, I am so pitiful for this vicious female supporting role. It's so late and I have to be frightened awake by this disgusting licking dog, and then go through the plot. Damn it, don't evil female supporting characters have human rights? Li Baikan is now sure that he is worried in vain. With her appearance, this woman can be hurt in any way. But even though he thought so, Li Baikan still gave her the medicine carefully. Finally, he helped her rebandage it. Put some gauze in the room tomorrow and apply the medicine today without new gauze, the effect may be affected. I'll check back tomorrow. These words made Suniandu suspect that there was something wrong with his ears. What does this mean, he is coming tomorrow? Then if I don't wash my feet tomorrow, I'll stink this guy to death. Remember to wash your feet. After Li Baikan said that, he stood up and walked towards the window. Sunian. Haha, luckily I thought that this guy was aware of his conscience, but I only had a little bit of this thought. Fortunately, it was only a little bit, otherwise I would have looked like such a fool. But at this moment, Sunian thought of something. Where did this guy come from? When this question first appeared in Sunian's mind, she saw that Li Baikan had walked to the window, and, his posture at this moment looked like he was climbing out of a window. Isn't this guy sneaking in through the window? Then Sunian saw Li Baikan flipping out neatly. Sunian subconsciously wanted to lift the quilt and get out of bed. But before she could get out of bed, Li Baikan's voice sounded again, "Don't move. Don't you want to get better soon? Don't you want to continue to feel pain?" These words made Sunian stop moving. Li Baikan glanced at Sunian and jumped down. Such an operation really shocked Sunian. Li Baikan actually sneaked in through the window to apply medicine for her. The current plot is really magical. Sunian put his hand on his forehead. If she were a little more narcissistic and didn't know Li Baikan's setting, then Sunian might really think that Li Baikan liked her. This made Sunian smile. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 174. Chapter 174. What attitude do you want from me? In fact, Li Baikan really felt that it would be better for Sunian to stay with the old man. Just like this moment. Lu Jing has been chattering non-stop since he broke in and started talking. Li Baikan counted on his fingers and found that it had been almost half an hour since he came in, and this guy didn't even want to stop talking. If it weren't for Lu Jing's usefulness, then he really wanted to drive this guy out. And Li Baikan's unresponsive look made Lu Jing dissatisfied. Li Baikan, what kind of attitude do you have? You are already like this. Why are you still like this? It has nothing to do with you. I will tell you that there is nothing in your heart. There is no Jir. If you hadn't robbed me, how could you have let Huo Linyuan take advantage? Maybe now I and Jir will have a second child. What attitude do you want me to have? Li Baikan turned the pen in his hand casually. What attitude do I want from you? What attitude can I ask you for now? Of course I want to find a way to catch Sunian. Didn't you listen to me at all? The same goes for your old man. Why are you meddling in other people's business? Lu Jing said. Then he looked at Li Baikan with a contemptuous look. You too, you are such an old man after all, why are you still afraid of your old man? Now I really understand why I didn't choose you. After all, that woman is willing to choose a father. Li Baikan stopped turning his pen when Lu Jing said, of course we have to find a way to catch Sunian. Such a sentence, if you don't know, you would think it is talking about catching some beast or other animal. What we have to do now is to find a way, not to make trouble here. Li Baikan finally spoke. But these words did not make Lu Jing calm down. Instead, he became more and more agitated. Am I making trouble? It's so urgent now. Why are you so calm? If you ask me, why don't we just stop and let's break into you? The old man just snatched Sunian out and tied the woman to the operating table, so that nothing would happen. These words made Li Baikan's fists clenched. Tie directly to the operating table? No. Lu Jing was furious when he heard this. Why not? Didn't you hear what the doctor said now? There is no way to delay this. You didn't listen. The doctor said that her body is very weak now and she may not even be able to survive the operation. Now tie Sunian over and dig her out and put her somewhere. It was only then that Lu Jing remembered Lan Min's actual physical condition. He sat down on the sofa all of a sudden. Although this is the case, Sunian is not within our control. I really feel like there is a sword hanging over our heads, a sword that may fall down at any time. I really can't sleep well day and night. When Li Baikan heard Lu Jing venting his complaints, he knew that the opportunity had come. I can understand your mood. You and I are sincere, but I feel uncomfortable in my heart. It is clear that Lan Min is the culprit, but that culprit is he didn't care about Lan Min, and Lan Min was eagerly waiting for him to show up. These words immediately ignited Lu Jing's firecrackers. You're right, Lan Min became like this because of Huo Linyuan. This Huo Linyuan is gone now. It's all our concern. It's really disgusting. I think this is an opportunity for Lan Ren to see clearly who treats her best, so that she can look back in time. Li Baikan saw that Lu Jing had taken the bait, so he continued. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Zhang Word. Chapter 175. Chapter 175, The Distortion of Human Nature or the Loss of Morality. The reason why Li Baikan let this guy talk nonsense in front of him for so long was because of this idea. He feels that he wants to change. The so-called male protagonist Huo Linyuan must be dealt with. But if he directly confronts Huo Linyuan, he will definitely be unlucky. This will allow Lu Jing to make use of Lu Jing, a person who is more licking than he is supposed to be. Actually, the reason why I am so calm is because I want Lan Min to understand the true face of that guy, and then find an opportunity to take action. In this way, I can hit the target with one hit and make Lan Min completely give up on that guy. As long as Lan Min is against that guy, if you give up, I believe everything will be fine. God knows how disgusting Li Baikan felt when he said the word. But from Lu Jing's expression, he could see that his nausea was worth it. Specially worthy. Lu Jing looked at Li Baikan. He said, why is Li Baikan so quiet this time? He even seems to have changed into a different person and doesn't care about Lan Min anymore. It turns out that the scheming is so deep. It's a pity that Li Baikan couldn't control his mouth and actually said his plan. Li Baikan, Minner is like this, and you are still like this. Aren't you afraid that something will happen to Minner? You are really going too far. You are not worthy of Jir at all. After Lu Jing said this, he walked out angrily. After Lu Jing left, Li Baikan felt much cleaner. This made Li Baikan think of that woman who loves to think wildly. Compared to this Lu Jing, that woman is not even noisy. In the following time, Lee Baiken always checked the time frequently and looked out of the floor-to-ceiling windows. When it's evening, Lee Baiken came to the old house again. Sunian did not sleep this time, but sat on the bed obediently. Does it still hurt today? Sunian shook his head. Actually, Sunian thought that this guy was just talking casually, and she didn't expect that he actually came. Have you washed your feet? Lee Baiken sat on the bed and asked naturally. Sunian felt as if a flock of crows were flying above his head. Damn, what did this guy's mouth eat? It smells so bad. He took out the medicine and took off the bandage as he did yesterday. Why didn't you answer? Didn't you wash it? Didn't you keep saying you love me? You didn't even give me this bit of respect? Isn't it a bit unreasonable? What else could Sunian do? He could only smile and say, Baiken, what did you say? Of course I'll wash it off. Is it a lack of humanity or a loss of morality that you still have to admit that you have not washed your feet? Really? Lee Baiken continued to stir up trouble. What do you mean by licking a dog? Do you want me to swear to God that I really washed my feet? No, this guy might really do such a thing. This guy might as well not have come here. He sprained his foot, which made me feel uncomfortable, but this stubborn licker only added fuel to the fire. It's really disgusting. Sunian didn't want to argue with this guy about whether to wash her feet or not. She was afraid that she would lose her mind in anger. Just to discuss this guy, he made his feet smelly. Baiken, I haven't been by your side these days. Have you ever thought about me? Sunian quickly changed the subject. Lee Baiken looked at the woman when he heard this. He knew that Sunian said this just because he didn't want to make fun of her. But he couldn't look away at this moment. Looking at Sunian's pretended to be hurt, he said, No, I should say, are you used to it? I know I'm asking for shame, but I still want to ask. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Which John Word. Chapter 176. Chapter 176 The Old Man Who Caught the Adulterer. So you still know. Lee Baiken carefully applied the medicine to her. But this sentence is better than ridiculing Sunian directly. If that's the case, then see if I don't disgust you to death. Just as Sunian was about to move, Lee Baiken held his ankle. It's not easy to climb over the wall. Don't bother, otherwise you will still be the one in pain. Sunian just couldn't move. Lee Baiken glanced at Sunian, who was thinking about how to torment him, and then dropped his eyes on her ankles again. Habit, I haven't had this woman's random thoughts these days. I'm really not used to it. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door, which startled Sunian. Then the old man's voice rang out, Nian Nian, are you asleep? Sunian subconsciously said to Lee Baiken, I didn't tell Dad about your coming here. What should I do now? Why don't you hide? Nian Nian, are you asleep? Just now, my servant told me that there is some movement here. Let me see why you are silent. Is something happening? If someone is in your room, then you just tell me and I will bring someone to rescue you right away. When Li Jianhong said this, the movement at the door became louder and louder, and there was even a gesture of breaking in. Sunian quickly pulled Lee Baiken to his bed and covered him with a quilt. Don't make any noise here. Lee Baiken saw Sunian's serious look. It made Lee Baiken feel like he was an adulterer. After hiding the person, Sunian hurriedly opened the door. Dad, why is it late? Why haven't you fallen asleep yet? Li Jianhong walked in and looked around, but his eyes stayed on the raised quilt on the bed for a while. Nian Nian, did you see anyone? Sunian shook his head. No, I've been sleeping and I didn't see anyone, he yawned. Li Jianhong has lived for such a long time, so why can't he tell that Sunian is lying? I really didn't see anyone. The servant at home just said that someone sneaked in secretly, so I came to take a look. Sunian immediately wanted to explain. But before Sunian could say anything, he was interrupted by the old man. This reminds me that the daughter-in-law of your Uncle Wang's family sneaked people in behind his back. Sunian didn't expect the old man to say that, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. Li Jianhong continued, Nian, I'm not doubting what you mean. What I mean is that if you are really enlightened, then just let the young man go through the front door and climb over the wall like this. What if he gets injured? After all, it's easy to miss the mark if you're blind at night. Sunian. Li Baikan hiding under the quilt. Of course, Li Baikan knew that his traces could not be hidden from the old man, and he deliberately told himself this. But even in this situation, Li Baikan felt a little uncomfortable. Nian, I am sincere and I am not deceiving you. Sunian replied with an awkward smile, Dad, what you said, am I that kind of woman? Who knew that Li Jianhong put on a serious expression, Nian, I'm not joking, you, don't hang yourself on a tree. If this tree in Baikan doesn't work, then you can just change another tree. Anyway, I will put it here today. No matter what happens, even if something happens to you and that brat Li Baikan, I will still be your father. Yesterday was the 4th update. When I was posting, I accidentally deleted the article I posted yesterday. I don't know what's wrong with my brain. Hey. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Which John Word. Chapter 177. Chapter 177 I am asking you to prove, not to let you take advantage of me. After seeing the old man off, Sunian turned around and saw Li Baikan's face and was startled. With this look on his face, someone who didn't know better would have thought I owed him money. But it's not my fault that the old man said this, and the old man's look was obviously meant to tell him. This can only mean that this dog-licking character is so bad that even his own father can't stand it. And you know how to show off to me, and you have the ability to show off to your biological father. Sunian came close to Li Baikan, Baikan, don't think too much. Dad is only joking. How could I cheat? You may not know that you are really engraved in my heart and in my heart. It can even be said to be engraved in the soul, don't get me wrong. When you die, every time I find a new love, I will take her to your grave and wander around. What can you do to me then? What can you do to me then? The smile on Li Baikan's face became bigger and more permeable. How do you prove it? When Li Baikan finished speaking, the environment suddenly became quiet and the atmosphere became tense. Then Sunian started to take off his clothes. Li Baikan. He grabbed the woman's hand, pressed her directly under him, and said with gritted teeth, I asked you to prove, not to let you take advantage of me. I feel that no matter how much I say, in your eyes, you still don't believe me, and you may even think that I, a woman, am telling lies. If that's the case, why don't I take practical actions? Seize every opportunity to get this guy's seed. When I get it, I will definitely let this licking dog know what a beating from society is. He let go of Sunian's hand. Sunian immediately put on a look that was about to cry without tears. Yes, in your heart, no matter what I do, it is wrong. Just like you now, you may think that my body is dirty, even if you personally sure, Baikan, this is unfair. Why are you always so unfair to me? Provoke me, then rely on me. Do you think I don't know what you have in mind? Sunian. Sunian looked at this guy. Why is he like this? Why does he feel that I am forcing a decent woman? What kind of thing is this? I am really angry. But don't worry, I won't give you this chance. Li Baikan picked up the clothes and helped her put them back on. Baikan, you. I don't have a cuckold hobby. As long as you are my wife, even if it is your wife in name, you will not have this opportunity. The old man's attitude really made Lee Baikin feel more and more that this woman in his previous life was really the idea of remarrying became more and more real, and it made Lee Baikin feel more and more depressed. So when he said this, he couldn't help but said, "Even if I die, you can't do it?" These words made Sunian's body tremble. Then Lee Baikin pulled the person into his arms. "Even if I die, I will still be by your side. I will pester you and will not let you cuckold me. After all, you took the initiative on your own, become my wife, so you have no chance of regret." Sunian. What is even if I die, then I will be by your side? What the is this? Have Mary Sue novels turned into supernatural novels? Why didn't you notify me? This made Sunian couldn't help but think about Lee Baikin turning into a ghost and following him, and he couldn't help but shudder. Lee Baikin felt much better when he saw Sunian like this. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 178. Chapter 178. Old Man, men are despicable creatures. The next day, Sunian saw workers loading things under the window of her room. This reminded Sunian of what happened yesterday. This won't be. When Sunian just thought of this, Lee Jianhong's helpless voice rang out, "Nian Nian, I told you that all you have to do now is to be reserved. Why don't you take my words to heart and don't be deceived by those little tricks of Baikin?" Sunian. Sunian then saw the expression on Lee Jianhong's face that he hated iron but could not make steel. Sunian feels so difficult now. She even wanted to tell the old man that what I have is the script of Lee Baikin's dog licking. Sunian now really feels that the script he got after rebirth is very difficult. Dad. You must be cruel now, you must not take that little brat seriously, you must have such an attitude. Although Sunian felt a lot helpless, what else could she do? However, she still glanced at the busy workers and couldn't help but ask, "Dad, if this is the case, what will happen if Baikin doesn't come?" Unexpectedly, after Lee Jianhong heard this, he said in a positive tone, "Nian Nian, this is because you don't understand. You must know that men are despicable creatures. The more you don't let him do anything, then the more he wants to do it, the more he hates that Lan Min, but Baikin, this little bunny, is like a possessed man, trying his best to get close to that woman." Although Sunian understood the truth, he still felt that it was a bit weird to hear this from the old man's mouth, but he couldn't tell what was weird about it, it was just weird anyway. At this moment, the old man's secretary came in a hurry. Lee Jianhong's expression turned bad when he saw the person coming. After all, he had long since stopped caring about the company's affairs. If he could make his secretary look like this, that brat must have done something again. What's wrong? Today the Lu family suddenly cut off the cooperation with the Huo family, and it was also revealed that the Huo family had significantly lowered prices in their cooperation with them, and they were going to use this to sue the Huo family, the secretary said respectfully. These words made Sunian suddenly energetic. How can it be? Given the dog-licking attributes of Lee Baikin and Lu Jing, now that Lan Min is in danger, what they should do now is not to try their best to rescue Lan Min. Why are you attacking Huo Linyuan now? You must know that Huo Linyuan is Lan Min's sweetheart. This made Li Jianhong immediately smell the interest. You should pay close attention to this situation. If there is any trouble, get back to me immediately. The secretary left quickly after hearing what Li Jianhong said. Li Jianhong clearly understood that Li Baikin must have been involved in this matter, and he also felt that he could add fuel to the flames. Sunian said at this time, "Dad, you can send someone to check on Lan Min's situation. You can go to the steward and give him whatever you want. If you want the people here to do anything, then do it." After saying this, he left in a hurry. Sunian filtered the plots of his previous life in his brain and found that there was no similar plot in his previous life. You must know that Lu Jing's character design is one where he can do anything for Lan Ren. Now Lu Jing suddenly turned against Huo Linyuan, and it was also when Lan Min's body was having problems. You must know that according to the settings of novels, at such a time, the heroine needs the care of the hero. Lu Jing's character cannot be in this situation. Time to cause trouble. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 179. Chapter 179 The Perfect Chess Piece. In the ward. Lan Min was on the phone frantically. Crazily called Huo Linyuan, Li Baikan, and Lu Jing. But none of the three men got through. She was really panicking when she watched the reports on TV. Why did Lu Jing suddenly betray Linyuan? What if Linyuan suspected that she had colluded with Lu Jing, betrayed him, and misunderstood herself? Just at this time, the nurse came to check the ward. Lan Zhen grabbed the nurse and said, "Where is Baikan and where is Lu Jing? Can you call them?" "Ms. Lan, you are very weak now. Don't act recklessly," the nurse comforted her when she saw her. But how could Lan Min continue to listen now? "I want to see them, you find them, come here quickly, I want to see them, come quickly." The more Lan Min said this, the paler her face turned. The nurse couldn't stand it anymore and called the doctor quickly. Soon the ward became lively. Such scenes were all seen by Li Baikan and Lu Jing through surveillance. Lu Jing looked at Lan Min's uncomfortable look. He was really restless at the moment and wanted to say something. "But when I thought about my plan to make a profit while the snipe and the clam compete with each other, I put up with this thought." Li Baikan caught Lu Jing's expression and said deliberately, "Be patient, Lan Yan, as long as Huo Linyuan is gone, you will only be mine, and no one can it from me as expected." These words made him, Lu Jing, who was originally restless, suddenly became quiet. And he directly mocked, "Li Baikan, you are really good at pretending. If you really love Ji-er, then why are you not moved at all when you see Ji-er? I even feel that you don't have Ji-er in your heart at all. You know how uncomfortable I feel now, I feel like I've been bitten by bugs all over my body. You're not a roundworm in my stomach. How do you know I'm not uncomfortable? No one in this world is more miserable than me." Li Baikan, who had been controlled by the so-called plot for so long, finally figured out the tone, "But if not, then Lan Min will not know who is the best to her in the world. After all, I have put everything I have in front of her, and she doesn't want it." Li Baikan can now be sure that his idea is right. Because after inciting Lu Jing to deal with Huo Linyuan, he bribed the people around him. So he knew that there was nothing unusual about Lu Jing after he faced off with Huo Linyuan. Perhaps it was because he had not awakened to him, and he happened to be a perfect chess piece. Perfect chess pieces that allow him to take care of Huo Linyuan and Lan Min. Sure enough, after he said this, a look of disdain appeared on Lu Jing's face. "You are so cruel. If you are like this, if Minner can like you, then Minner has a brain problem. You are not like me at all. You put Minner first." After saying this, Lu Jing said he walked outside with an angry look. Seeing Lu Jing's expression, Li Baikan knew that this guy would not appear in front of Lan Min for a while. Li Baikan turned his attention to the surveillance video again. "Since neither he nor Lu Jing showed up, why are you so anxious? You must know that he specially arranged for someone to report to her about Huo Linyuan's current situation. At the same time, people from Lu Jing will also give Huo Linyuan a deaf ear. The so-called male and female protagonists are done at the same time." End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, Ro which John word. Chapter 180. Chapter 180. Lu Jing is not short of money. After learning about the old man, Li Baikan began to unite with his friends to cancel Huo's cooperation. He couldn't help but think. Sun Yanzhe knew what he would think if he attacked Huo Linyuan at this time. She would probably think that he did this because he wanted to get the woman Lan Min, and she might even snicker behind his back. But it doesn't matter, it will be fine when Sun Yan sees that he has solved the so-called male and female protagonist. Even Li Baikan was curious. If that day really comes, what will Sun Yan's expression be like? I'm really looking forward to it. After Li Baikan processed the documents for a while, Lin Su pushed the door open and came in. Mr. Li, Miss Lan left the hospital and wanted to come to the company to find you, but she didn't expect that when she was halfway there, she was caught by Mr. Lu's people, and in your name, Miss Lan was kidnapped directly back to the hospital. Li Baikan stopped moving. Lin Su quickly handed over the tablet. Then Li Baikan saw Lan Min being with a rope and then taken away very roughly. Even received a few slaps in the middle. Li Baikan almost laughed when he saw the video. This Lu Jing really tried his best to throw dirty water on his love rival. After all, that woman will fall in love with a man who beats women. Let the doctor pay attention and don't let anything happen to her. Lin Su understands. Li Baikan thought for a moment, if Lu Jing wants to bribe doctors, you can let them be bribed happily and do what he wants, but remember to ask them to ask for a slightly higher price. Lu Jing is not short of money. Lin Su, who originally thought that Li Baikan would tell him to strengthen the protection of Lan Min, was stunned when he heard this. You must know that he is following Li Baikan, but he knows Li Baikan's thoughts about Lan Min better than anyone else. Doing this now really makes him confused. When Li Baikan saw Lin Su's expression, he understood what Lin Su meant and immediately said, "Don't be too nice to this woman. If you are nice to her, then the woman will think that everything you do is justified. It should be." Hospital ward. When the nurse brought the food, a strong sour smell filled the room. Smelling this smell, Lan Min subconsciously felt sick. What is this? Why does it smell so bad? Lan Min pinched his nose. Nurse, Ms. Lan, this is a nutritious meal we specially prepared for you. It is good for your body. If you eat it, your body will definitely get better in the shortest time. Lan Jian glanced at what the nurse handed over. The food is cooked in one pot and smells bad. Is this a nutritious meal? Yes, it's a nutritious meal because your body is too weak. The doctor said that you need to supplement a lot of things. For this reason, we added a lot of ingredients. Why does Lan Jian feel that this thing is just mixed with leftover kitchen waste, especially for pigs? Lu Jing, haha, I'm still smart, I sent someone to go there. Lan Min looked at the nurse in front of him and shook his head, sorry, I'm not hungry yet. After Lan Min said this, the nurse threw the food in his hand to the ground. I'm sorry, Miss Lan, my hand slipped, please don't blame me. Lan Min is not blind, so of course he can tell that the nurse did it on purpose. It's okay, by the way, where is Baikan? Do you have time in Baikan now? The nurse showed no intention of cleaning, so she turned around and walked outside. When we walked outside, the nurse's voice rang out, you are so shameless and won't eat. I won't give it to you tomorrow. In the following time, Lan Min's treatment plummeted, and her ward exuded a foul smell. Dear friends, why don't you vote for recommendation? It has been reduced by half in the past few days. Please vote. End of this chapter.